Hello everyone and welcome. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make pie crust. This is a really simple, easy recipe with just a few ingredients. So I like to use a food processor for it, but some people just like to mix it up themselves by hand, and you can do that as well. So we're going to be using 5 tablespoons of vegetable shortening, which I've already put into the food processor, 5 tablespoons of butter of your choice. I use the Country Crock plant-based one, but you can use regular butter. And then you'll put in 2 cups of all-purpose flour. Dump that right in. You will also need 1/4 cup of ice cold water, which I have ready to go. And I will slowly add that to the food processor as it starts to mix. And come on over and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, first I'll turn it on pulse just to get it started. The flour came out. Okay, it looks pretty good, so I'll start to add my 1/4 cup of ice water. And you'll see now that it started to form a ball and pull away from the sides. So that is how you know that it's done and ready to take out. Okay, so this pie crust recipe will make 2 pie crusts about 8 to 9 inches, depending on how thin you roll them. So put a little bit of flour on the board. Find my rolling pin. I will say I'm not the best with rolling out pie crust evenly. They don't always look perfect. Both my grandmothers were really, really good at pie crust, but me, rolling out pie crust, not so much. I will say though, making homemade pie crust, once you have that, if you ever have any refrigerated ones, they just don't taste the same. They have kind of like an aftertaste to them. It's like a plasticky taste, where homemade, there's nothing like it. And you can also use pie crust, this recipe for anything really. You can make chicken pot pie with it. If you're into like meat pies and things like that, you could make some of those with it. Where I grew up, we grew up in a small town that was really big on pasties. And they were a thing from Cornwall, England. And they were made with pie crust. And then you would put potatoes and usually hamburger or steak, a little bit of onions, and then some butter, and you'd fold them up into like a hot pocket, and you would bake them in the oven, and then you just eat it like that, like a hot pocket. And there were slate quarries in the town where I grew up, so a lot of times the wives would make those, and then the husbands would take those to work in their lunch pail to eat in the quarries when they were working. So it was a really popular item, and I believe it's on Wednesdays. Was usually the day that a lot of the stores and stuff would make pasties. It was pasty day. Okay, so like this. I think some people like to refrigerate their pie crust after they make it, but I'd rather just roll it out and use it. This pie crust recipe is pretty delicate, but it's so good. There we go. Whoops. Then you can do a fancy little edge around that if you'd like. You can just use a fork. That's what I usually do sometimes. Just, there we go. You can just use a fork, just go around it. There is one. You can also bake these pie crusts ahead of time too, if you'd like to make something maybe like a pudding pie or a peanut butter pie where you're not going to be baking it. Just bake it up and then just pour your pudding or whatever you have in there and serve it. Next one. This one, I added more flour to roll it out with, but it seems to be turning out a little bit easier to handle. I think the last one I didn't add quite enough flour. Go. If you'd like to keep some of the dough that you're cutting off here, sometimes what I would do is I would take small little cutters, maybe like hearts and stars and stuff, and I'd cut them out. And then before I bake the pie, I'd put them on top of the pie, maybe sprinkle a little sugar, cinnamon sugar on top of them, and then just bake them on the top. Especially if I made an apple pie, I'd have a cutout of an apple, and I'd put that around, or a pumpkin. You know, you could put little pumpkins on the top to make a pumpkin pie. And then again, I just use the fork. You can also pinch the pie too and go around. I'm not very good at that, so I just cheat and use the fork. And there you have it. You can just add your favorite pie filling to it and make a pie. Or like I say, you can bake it in the oven. If you're just going to bake it in the oven, let me just see what it says here. Let's see. It doesn't say. But if you're going to bake it in the oven, I would put it at 350 and just kind of keep an eye on it. Might only take maybe about 15 minutes or so, depending on how thick you rolled your dough. And also, many people do, like I say, refrigerate it for about an hour, but I like to just roll it right out while it's fresh and just put it right in the pie crust. But whatever works easiest for you. So thanks so much for joining me today. I appreciate it. And let me know if there's anything you would like to see. Thank you so much. So there you have it, 2 9-inch pie. So there you have it, 2 9-inch pie crust, all ready to go. I'll be making a sweet potato pie later with these. So please join me for that video. That'll be coming up next. And thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed this easy pie crust recipe. Thanks so much.